Choosing a champion in Champ Select is one of the most important details in League of Legends. So in today's video, the Jizz is going to break down everything you need to know about Champ Select, how you should approach it, and how you should build your own champion pool. And we'll be recommending some champions for each role. So by the end of today's video, you will know what to look out for in Champ Select, and also the champion you need to pick and ban to give yourself the best chance of winning. Now before we even get into champion selection, we have to decide which champions we are going to main for Season 12. So how do we go about doing this? Well, the magic number for the average person is 4 champions, and the reason for this is because these 4 champions cover all the weaknesses you and your teammates might face. Of course, you can one-trick a champion, but this has its limits. For example, if you're a one-trick Shaco, in some team compositions, it's going to be very hard to get kills, and against specific champions, it will be even harder just to stay relevant. So it's almost like we're building a Pokemon team. We're trying to cover each champion's weakness with the next champion we have. So to start off this champion pool process, we start by choosing one AD champion and one AP champion we can blind pick in pretty much every single game. Now what is a blind pick? Well, this is when you lock in your champion without knowing the champion you are playing against. For example, if you are the first pick in Champ Select, you will be blind picking. But what type of champion is good for a blind pick, you might ask? Well, you really want to be blind picking a champion that has very few hard counters and can work in pretty much any situation. So let's recommend some blind picks for each role, starting with the top lane. And obviously I can't go through every single matchup in this video, so if you do have any questions regarding these recommendations, leave them down below in the comments. Oh, and just before we do get into these top lane picks, guys, please make sure you check out the GameLeap website linked in the description and comment section to master any of the picks we recommend in this video or any of the champions in this game. Our challenger players and coaches this week, for example, have uploaded close to 20 videos in the last 7 days. Those are for our subscribers, so get that exclusive access by signing up. So for the AD blind pick in the top lane, we have Ornn, Gangplank, and Jace. Very few champions can even think of beating these in lane. Now what about the AP blind pick in the top lane? Well, we have Malphite, Gragas, and Teemo. And even though 2 of these, Malphite and Gragas, might be more susceptible to losing lane than Teemo, they bring a heck of a lot of utility. And even though you should probably build them full tank, their damage is all magic damage. Now let's head to the mid lane and recommend some of the best AP blind picks. So we have Syndra, Orianna, and then Lux. These champions are strong in lane, bring a lot to teamfights, and scale incredibly well. They are never not going to be useful. Now as far as the AD blind picks go in the mid lane, well, there aren't many, but some of the most effective blind picks include Akshan, Pantheon, and Aurelia. And ideally, you would want to be selecting one of these 3 when your jungler is hovering over an AP champion, and especially when your top laner is doing the same. Now let's head down to the bot lane and have a think about 3 AD carries who you can happily blind pick. Well, we have Caitlyn, Jinx, and Ezreal. Now Ezreal might not be as powerful during the laning phase as Caitlyn and Jinx, but he scales just as well and is a very safe pick. You are hard to kill, will have value in every game, and even if you do lose lane, it's no biggie. But what about 3 AP carries you might want to play in the bot lane? Well, we have Syndra, Ziggs, and then Karthus. And you would want to be locking in one of these champions when your teammates are hovering over a bunch of AD champions. And a big advantage of having one of these in your locker is that the enemy team will probably think that you're not going to the bot lane, so the likelihood of getting hard countered is a lot less compared to other roles. Now as far as supports go, it's a bit tricky because very few supports in the game are actually attack damage based, and these champions can get hard countered. So for this role, we're just going to recommend 3 blind pickable champions regardless of their damage type, so try to pick 2 of these. So we have Thresh, Lulu, and then Bard. Now last up, we have the jungle role, and 3 of the best blind pickable AD junglers include Jarvan, Xin Zhao, and Lee Sin. These 3 have value in every single game they're in and don't really have any weaknesses or heavy losing matchups. Now for the AP junglers, playing one of these 3 champions would definitely be a smart move. So we have Elise, Nidalee, and Zac. And yes, Zac is a tanky jungler and you're not going to build a ton of AP on him, but at the end of the day, you are dealing magic damage, and you obviously want to be picking an AP jungler if your top and mid lane are both attack damage. Now for all of these blind picks, there are going to be champions that might get on your nerves. You know, it's like having an itch. So what you can do in Champ Select is simply ban any champion that you might think could be a really good counter pick against you. For example, if you're one of those top laners blind picking Ornn, you might think of banning Fiora or Camille. Taking one of these out of the equation gives you a better chance of having a good matchup and in turn winning lane and the game. So now you're probably thinking, alright, so I've picked my AD and then AP blind pick for my role, but what are the other 2 champions I have to incorporate into my champion pool where we just decided on who to blind pick. Now it's time to pick one AD champion and one AP champion for each role who are amazing counter picks. So a counter pick is just the opposite of a blind pick. You're picking your champion in champ select after the enemy has locked in theirs, so you know who you are up against. And by doing so, you will be putting yourself in a favorable matchup. In other words, in a lane which you are likely to win, so you have a better chance of winning. So let's do the same process for our counter picks as we did for our blind picks. So in the top lane, 3 AD champions who are counter pickable. These include Camille, Jax, and Darius. These 3 champions, you just do not want to see them locked in as counter picks, because if they win lane, they can dominate like no one else. So having one of these up your sleeve is a must. Now for the AP counter picks in the top lane, well, how about choosing one of these 3 champions? So we have Gwen, Kennen, and then Kayle. Just like the top lane AD counter picks, if these champions have a free lane, you better watch out. Now let's dive back to the mid lane and talk about 3 AP champions you might consider picking as your go-to counter pick. So we have Kassadin, Sylas, and then LeBlanc. If the enemy team locks in a champion any of these do well into and they don't ban them, it's GG. But what about some AD counter picks for the mid lane? Well, have a look at these 3. Zed, Kiana, and then Yasuo. And the reason I've recommended Yasuo and not Yone is because Yasuo counters more champions than Yone. It's that simple, especially in the mid lane where there are lots of skill shotters. The wind wall mechanic is a big cut. Now, as far as AD carry counter picks go, let's look at these 3 champions. So we have Samira, Vayne, and then Draven. Now, if the enemy AD carry wants to disrespect us with a not so blind pickable champion, maybe they lock in Varus, let's say, then we have to pick a champion that counters them, like Samira. Do not let them get away with it. Now, a bit like blind picking for support, as far as AP counters for the AD carry role, they are few and far between, but you can still consider mastering one of these 3, Syndra, Cassiopeia, and Ziggs. For example, in pro play at the moment, Ziggs is actually being picked a lot into immobile AD carries like Aphelios and Jhin, because they are very easy to hit with your bombs. Now, for the support role, again, there is really no such thing as an AD counter pick or an AP counter pick, just a counter pick that doesn't need to worry about the damage mix of their team. So the 3 best counter pick supports, and I would recommend learning 2 of these in case one of them is bad, include Pyke, Zillion, and Morgana. Blind picking these is risky because they can be very useless against certain champions, but as counter picks, they can be match winning. And finally, the jungle counter picks. So for the AD counter picks, the 3 we recommend include Rek'Sai, Olaf, and Poppy. Rek'Sai for those pesky invisible champions and those champions with jumps, Olaf for teams with a ton of CC and close range champions, and Poppy for those enemy champions with a bunch of dashes. And last up, we have the AP jungle counter picks, and the 3 champions are Karthus, Fiddlesticks, and then Evelynn. And these 3 junglers are kind of similar because they scale incredibly well, so we're not really picking them to dumpster the enemy jungler in the early game. We're picking them into champions we know we can scale for free against and won't put us under any pressure before level 6. So for any role you are playing, guys, in Season 12, having 4 champions, so 2 blind picks and 2 counter picks, will give you the best chance of winning on a consistent basis. If you're one of those players who plays 10 different champions in a row, please take this information on board. I guarantee you it will help you in the win rate department. And if you did enjoy the video, remember to let us know by leaving a like down below. And also remember to check out the GameLeap website on your way out for the best challenger tier content. I'm talking courses, guides, high elo fun analyses. We have these in abundance and you will definitely improve as a player if you go ahead and watch them and get that access. So sign up today, and this has been the